You want to know when I became a man? It wasn't when I threw my first punch, and it wasn't when I lost my first fight. It was when I bowed my head to the ground and said, Allahu Akbar. This one's for the Southern men and for every man in the world who's been told that manhood means muscle, money, and a mouth that never shuts. Not the politicians in Nashville or D.C., and not the bootlickers waving flags like idols. I'm talking to the ones who can still fix a fence, field dress a deer, say yes ma'am to a lady, and a astaghfirullah when they've gone astray. I grew up on a farm in East Tennessee, raised cattle and horses. I cut tobacco till my hands split, and I put up hay in the July heat that could peel your skin. I was fishing since I could walk and hunting since I could carry a gun. And back then I thought manhood was just that. Calloused hands, a loud voice, a hard jaw, and a harder stare. But that wasn't all it took to make it out here. Down south, the ground itself will test you. You learn to keep your mouth shut and your wheel iron tight when the tractor breaks down midfield and the sun's still high. You learn to fix what you can and you pray over what you can't. You work with men who don't complain, not because it don't hurt, but because there ain't no time to, and you bury your dead in the same dirt that you till. You wipe your eyes and go feed the livestock anyway. You get tough early, and that toughness becomes your pride, your proof, and your shield. We didn't call it mental health. We called it getting through. Storm knocks off your roof, you patch it before breakfast. Your heart breaks, and you keep driving. Down here, weakness ain't a sin, but quitting is. So you grit your teeth, you spit the blood out, and you keep moving. But somewhere between the barn and the bottle, between Sunday sermons and Saturday sins, I realized that all that strength didn't mean nothing if the heart behind it was hollow. See, the South used to have grit. Men who worked the land, who bled and prayed in the same day. Now we got boys playing soldier in truck stop hats and designer jeans screaming about freedom while they're slaves to lust, to greed, and to their ego. And it just ain't the South anymore, it's the whole damn world. From London to L.A. Men puff their chests and scroll their phones, fighting digital wars and losing the real battle inside themselves. They quote Friedrich Nietzsche and they wear cross necklaces, they drink whiskey and they call it wisdom, but they ain't got a drop of discipline in them. No salah, no sabr, and no soul. You want to know when I became a man? It wasn't when I threw my first punch, and it wasn't when I lost my first fight. It was when I bowed my head to the ground and said, Allahu Akbar. When I realized that strength ain't how hard you hit, but how much you can restrain. That courage ain't in fighting for your pride, but standing firm for truth when the whole damn world calls you wrong. Islam didn't make me soft. It made me steel. It gave me a backbone forged in revelation, not rebellion. When I read the Quran and Islam and I see men, real men, Khalid ibn Walid, the sword of Allah, who never lost a battle but cried when he died in bed because he wanted to die on the battlefield. Ali ibn Talib, the lion-hearted, who could crush a warrior and then feed an orphan in the same breath. And the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the gentlest to his wives, the bravest in battle, the first to forgive and the last to flee. That's manhood. That's not the kind you flex, but it's the kind you live. But look around. The world sold you counterfeit courage, porn instead of purity, rage instead of righteousness, and luxury instead of legacy. They told you that masculinity was toxic, and you believed them. So you traded it for weakness in a three-piece suit, for validation from strangers, and for followers instead of family. No. Real masculinity is submission. Not to a woman and not to government, but to God, but to Allah. A real man stands before his Lord 5 times a day and he says, guide me, Allah, strengthen me, Allah, forgive me, Allah. He defends truth, honors women, and feeds the poor, and fears no one but Allah. That's the kind of man I'm trying to be. That's the kind of man we need again. So to my Southern brothers, to my city brothers, to every man born into confusion and craving, find your direction before you find your mirror, and then turn back to the book that made warriors humble and kings tremble. Don't bow to a politician and don't kneel to a paycheck. Bow to the one who made you from dust and still calls you his servant. You can raise cattle, ride horses, shoot straight, build barns, and bury your dead. But if you don't know your Lord, you're still lost in the field. So rise up. Put down your ego, pick up your prayer rug, be like Khalid, unbreakable, be like Ali, merciful and mighty, and be like Muhammad, the mercy to mankind. Because the world don't need more cowboys, it needs more men of God. And if the South still got any fire left in its bones, let it burn for truth and let it burn for Islam. Let it burn for the return of real men who fear nothing but Allah and live with honor till the grave. That's all I've got to say about it.